Hey everyone, so I found an article where somebody, a group of people maybe, they went through all of the 5th edition Forgotten Realms adventures and tried to create a timeline of events to see what order they happen in. So let's walk through that together. Hey everybody, here we are on my desktop. Now, for those of you who don't know, there was this AlphaStream gaming blog, and I've got it over here, but I don't want to like readjust my windows just yet because of everything. So this person wanted to figure out an official timeline for the Forgotten Realms and the adventures. Now, they're doing all of the adventures, but specifically for 5th edition, Wizards of the Coast has been very hush on the order of adventures because they don't specifically want you to feel that you have to play them in an order. They want you to just play the adventures. And that is great. But for those of us who are interested in the collective history of the realms, it's kind of nice to know like what events happen in what order. And through some sleuthing and digging around in the text and stuff, they have put together a timeline. So if we scroll down here, here's the timeline right here. So the beginning is Out of the Abyss, followed by Hoard of the Dragon Queen, Rise of Tiamat, Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden, Storm King's Thunder, Lost Mine of Phandelver, Princes of the Apocalypse, Curse of Strahd, Tomb of Annihilation, Waterdeep, Dragon Heist, and Dungeon of the Mad Mage, Dragons of Icespire Peak, which is the Essentials Kit, Descent into Avernus, and finally Acquisitions Incorporated in 1496 Dale Reckoning. I have a bunch of windows open here because I wanted to walk through how they did this so that you guys could understand. First of all, they're going through all of the adventures. So there are, and the adventures intertwine with books and novels and things like that. What we know is that, you know, the gray box, the 1st edition of Forgotten Realms box set, that was 1357. The Time of Troubles happened in 1358, which brought in 2nd edition. And then there were some other things. 3rd edition, the end of 3rd edition is 1376. The Year of Blue Fire, which was the Spell Plague, is 1385. We know that the eruption of Mount Hotenow is in 1451 because of the Dritz novels. And that is going to be like a marker that we use for later on. And then we know that Mystra returns and ends the Spell Plague in 1479. Now, after 1479, 5th edition kind of bubbles and happens. So the first thing is 1482, we have Murder in Baldur's Gate. Now, this is a product that they put out for D&D Next. So the events of Murder in Baldur's Gate happen in 1482. And then in 1484, we start getting the Sundering novels that come out. And then in 1485, there are a whole bunch of other things that come out. So we have Ghosts of Dragonspear Castle, which was another 4th edition, 5th edition. This looks like it was a Gen Con 2013 D&D Next preview, only available to Gen Con attendees. So that's what this was, yeah. But there were some dates in this. And then we have Legacy of the Crystal Shard, which is takes place in Icewind Dale. And yeah, it looks like there was a Next, a 4th edition, and a 3.5. So you could play that. They just wanted people to play these, I guess, to get back in the realms maybe. Then we have Scourge of the Sword Coast, which are these Dreams of the Red Wizards, as well as Dead and Thay, which is part of this Dream of the Red Wizards. Now, Dead and Thay was later republished in Tales of the Yawning Portal. So, but just as a side adventure because they liked this adventure they wrote. Now, according to Chris Perkins, we're going to use Archmage, which is the R.A. Salvatore novel. Then we know that Out of the Abyss takes place in 1485. So 1485 is the first, or Out of the Abyss would be the first adventure that we're going to go on, if we're going to do this chronologically, because of the novels that tie into the Forgotten Realms. 1487, we have the final Sundering novel, which is tied with, I'm reading here, the D&D Next Adventure confrontation at Candlekeep takes place just prior to the events in the Herald. Then we get into 1489. We have some Adventures League, organized play of Hoard of the Dragon Queen and Rise of the Tiamat. This is interesting. So they in 1489, Lord Neverember is ousted as an open lord of Waterdeep and replaced by Laurel Silverhand. And we know that through the adventures. So Hoard of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat must take place in 1489. Yes, so this is the D&D Beyond source here for Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden, and they state here that this adventure is assumed to take place in the winter of 1489 DR or later. It's not really important, but the exact date, they just want you to know that it's a century after the Crystal Shard, which was the original Drizzt Do'Urden book that came out with Icewind Dale and all that stuff. And then moving forward, 1490 would be Storm King's Thunder. This is because we have Laurel Silverhand, who is now the open lord of Waterdeep. So we know that it has to take place in 1490 or 1489 at the earliest. And the text also mentions that there were some fights against Tiamat, so we're assuming it does take place after the 1489 adventure. There is also some dealings with this book, Death Masks, that Ed Greenwood wrote, that has some other dates in there that kind of shifted along, but we're going to say it's 1490 or 1491, one of the two. Then Princes of the Apocalypse takes place, and we know that because of this novel, Death Masks. And in that novel, they reference Curse of Strahd, which takes place then, 1491 or earlier. This is interesting because Curse of Strahd really exists out of time, and a lot of people thought this was just a remake of the original, but with the Domains of Dread, he really is locked there, repeating the cycle over and over again. So potentially, the adventures that you had that went into Curse of Strahd were from 1491 DR Forgotten Realms. So also Lost Mine of Phandelver from the starter set. So the earlier pages of Lost Mine of Phandelver, oh, this is the wrong one. I found it. So this is Lost Mine of Phandelver. And we have here that it says 30 years ago, the eruption of Mount Hotenow in the north devastated the Thunder Tree. Now we know that Mount Hotenow exploded in 1451 DR, so we're going to assume this is 1491 that this takes place in. 30 years would set the adventure in 1481 DR, but... Okay, so Lost Mines of Phandelver is a little tricky because this sentence makes us think that this adventure should take place in 1481, but we don't know that for sure because of Acquisitions Incorporated says that Phandelver and Princes happen around the same time. So we're going to go with 1491 with this one. This is their logic for it. Then we have Tomb of Annihilation, which that takes place in either 1490 or 1491. And in that adventure, they're specifically referencing events that had already occurred in Storm King's Thunder. So we know that this Tomb of Annihilation has to come after Storm King's Thunder. And you also find Volo in that adventure, who's writing Volo's Guide to Monsters. And Waterdeep Dragon Heist mentions that book is published. So Tomb of Annihilation comes before what's next, which is Waterdeep Dragon Heist 1492. So after that, 1492 or 93, we have Dragons of Icespire Peak. Now the Essentials kit specifically says in one of them that the city was badly damaged. So it references Neverwinter here. So the city was badly damaged when Mount Hotenow erupted 50 years ago. We know that 50 years ago was 1451. That would put this adventure of Dragons of Icespire Peak at 1500 DR, which is not likely. So they're saying that it's probably around 1492 and 93, and that this is just kind of, it happened like 50 years ago. Then we get into Descent into Avernus, which this is interesting because we know that the Elturel sphere happened at a certain time, and it was only designed to last for 50 years. So because of that, 1494 has to be the year, despite within that adventure, they reference that it happened in 1492. Then, which is funny, I think Acquisitions Incorporated is canon, but I didn't realize it was like this much canon, but it kind of makes sense that it is. So the Acquisitions Incorporated adventure specifically says on, here we are with Acquisitions Incorporated. And when you're in Phandelver, they specifically say that this version of Phandelver is set 5 years after the adventure of Lost Mine and Phandelver. And says that, as with Phandelver, this version of Red Larch is set 5 years later than the earlier adventure, in referencing to Princes of the Apocalypse. So we know that those kind of happen around the same time. Yeah, so this is fun to kind of have a gauge. You could potentially play these in order, which is fun. But this is interesting. If you want to play these in order, straight up, Out of the Abyss, Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Oh, okay, let's see. So I'm captured by some drow, I'm level 1. By the time I get out of here, there's a cult of Tiamat on the rise that I got to take care of. So maybe we do the beginning of this one, we cut out Rise of Tiamat, and then for some reason, the cultists leave you up to Icewind Dale, where you got to take care of that problem, only to leave Icewind Dale and find out that there's a bunch of giants and they're fighting over stuff in the Ordning, and then you have to go take care of probably Princes of the Apocalypse and then jump into Lost Mine of Phandelver because maybe one of your characters is from Phandelver and has to help out with that. All while this happens, you are sucked into the Domain of Dread and have to take care of Strahd. Meanwhile, new adventures in... Oh, we got to do Tomb of Annihilation first. So new adventures in Tomb of Annihilation... new adventurers in Tomb of Annihilation are wandering around Chult trying to take care of this death curse. And those people eventually return to Waterdeep and discover the Waterdeep heist and the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Then you guys do the Essentials kit, followed by Descent into Avernus. Oh man. And then as those guys enter Hell, the Curse of Strahd people return, and they have an Acquisitions Incorporated adventure to play. Let me know if you guys would play, if you want to play these in order, or if you think that's possible. Probably not the same characters, but maybe we can make it work. I don't know. Leave me some comments below. You guys had some good insight into the questions, and a lot of people were requesting for videos on this, so I thought I'd just make a quick one. I hope you enjoy. Take care, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.